Hello.
Hello.
I'm Liv,
I'm Bridget.
and we know a lot.
About a lot of different things. We are both experts,
Some may say.
some may say, about different things.
Some may say.
Some may say.
And what are we talking about today?
We're talking about Percy Jackson. Something that I have been familiar with for, I thought about this earlier, a literal decade.
That's crazy.
Yeah, because I read it in middle school, and I had a fan account for it.
I have never read Percy Jackson. It wasn't a thing. I just didn't read it as a small child. And then it was like too long had gone by. Like I was like 19 and like I can't pick up Percy Jackson.
But you can.
But I can and I did. I've read a whopping 100 pages of all of the Percy Jackson books combined.
Yeah.
So the first.
And so she's basically read all of it. This is going to be a kind of video essay inspired by Mike's Mike,
Ginny Nicholson,
Carrie Can Read.
all of them, love them. We just want to tell you stuff about stuff that you might not know about.
And that we like talking about.
And that we know a lot
And that
about.
we know about. So let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
I'm going to be reading out the chapter titles too because I think they're funny. So we start with chapter 1. I accidentally vaporize my pre-algebra teacher.
I hate it when that happens.
Okay, we start with our main character,
Who?
Percy Jackson.
Huh, I haven't heard of him before.
No, yeah, he's new. We're going to go ahead and put his picture up on the wall. Right here-ish. Percy Jackson is 12 years old, and he lives in New York with his mom, but he's currently away at boarding school, a school called Yancey Academy, where he stays year-round.
You mean Laurel Academy?
What?
You know, that audio thing that you would play, and do you hear Yancey or Laurel? Oh, brother! This guy stinks! Sorry.
Damn. Okay. Well, speaking of stinks, Percy lives with his mom and his stepdad.
Boo!
But right now he's away at boarding school. He has been kicked out of 6 schools in 6 years. He can't last a full school year because he's a troubled kid. Bad things just kind of seem to follow him around.
Mm-hmm.
And adults just don't trust him. He's just got that look about him. At school, he only has one friend. He's a loner. His bestie is named Grover. We have a picture of Grover.
What human child is named Grover? Just curious. Like, you go to school. You're 12. These are 12-year-olds. 12-year-olds are the meanest people on earth. You go to school, and you're like, hey, I'm Grover? You sound like a Muppet.
Well, it's a good thing that he's not liked at school.
Like I see him.
Call him like I see him. Grover and Percy are bullied pretty heavily at school, so they only really stick together. Percy is also bad at school. He has ADHD and dyslexia, so he can't sit still. He can't read well. He can't really read at all.
And none of the teachers care.
And no one cares. It's important to note that this was written and is set in 2005. So
No one cared yet.
there was no, like, assistance for kids who have different learning paths.
He didn't have accommodations.
No.
He was just thrown to the wolves.
They just said, you're kind of shit at this. So,
Sorry.
He has one class that he really likes, and that is his Latin class, which is taught by a man named Mr. Brunner. So Mr. Brunner is like the cool teacher. He's in a wheelchair, he smells like coffee, and he has like gladiator fights in his class, which is pretty sick for Latin, which is just a language.
Which I don't get, because, hey, gladiators are Roman.
The story kind of starts in media res with...
Now what?
You don't know what that means?
No.
In media res? It's like when when a book starts and it's in the middle of a scene.
Ah.
That's what I mean. They're on a field trip to the Metropolitan Museum of Art.
MoMA.
The MoMA. It's being led by Mr. Brunner and a substitute teacher named Mrs. Dodds, who is an algebra teacher. Percy does not like her.
She stinks!
We'll get into that. They're on the tour of the, like, Greek history wing, looking at statues and things.
Stuff.
There's this girl in Percy and Grover's class named Nancy Bobafit.
Imagine. Just take a moment for that last name.
Wouldn't that suck?
Take a moment.
Anyway.
Nancy Boba Fett? More like Nancy Boba Fett. Am I right? Star Wars fans.
Nancy is bullying. She's out there bullying. Yancey Academy is a school that's supposed to be like all troubled kids, so Nancy has some behavioral issues as well.
She's working through them. Let's all just take a moment also again to realize that they're 12.
They're 12.
Like, what are you going to do about it?
What are you gonna do?
What are you going to do?
Nancy is talking while Mr. Brunner is trying to teach, and Percy tells her to shut up. But he says it way too loud, and everybody stops talking and everyone looks at him. And he gets in trouble for trying to learn at school.
Wow.
Trying to learn at school. Afterwards, the lesson kind of disbands. They go out for lunch, and on the way out, Mr. Brunner says to Percy that this kind of stuff is life or death for him.
Which is weird.
Which is a weird thing to say to a 12-year-old. Percy is happy that Mr. Brunner kind of treats him like a normal kid, but also is like, hey man, I'm not going to live up to these high expectations that you have for me.
Well,
I'm 12 and I can't read. So don't expect me to do
So
well.
there's that.
So there's that.
So jot that down.
Okay, outside they're eating lunch. Nancy Bobafit comes up and dumps her lunch into Grover's lap.
Poor Grover.
Poor
What did
Grover.
Grover do?
Nothing. He just...
Like, Percy, outraged her. But
Yeah.
Grover is
Grover has a
just
limp.
so violently there.
That's it. She's just being ableist. So Percy gets really pissed, and he basically blacks out. He gets so angry that he doesn't remember what happens next, but he kind of comes to, and Nancy is in the fountain, and everyone is saying that Percy pushed her in. But he doesn't remember that because he just got so angry. So Mrs. Dodds comes up and is like, you're in trouble. You gotta come with me, young man.
I think we also need to note that Mrs. Dodds is Southern
Yeah.
and
She's like,
wearing
here, sweetie.
a leather jacket.
A dusty leather jacket.
She's
Or maybe it's a
camp.
leather duster. I don't know. Mrs. Dodds takes him inside, and Percy assumes that he's going to be expelled because he basically is already on probation.
Like
and
10 strikes.
The next time that he does something wrong, he's going to be kicked out of school again. So Mrs. Dodds takes him inside, and Percy's like, "Ah, man, this is it for me."
Darn.
And then he's like, "Why is she taking me inside the museum? Maybe she's gonna make me buy a new shirt for Nancy or something." But she's acting really weird.
A little bit strange.
She's saying things that Percy doesn't really understand. Did you think you'd get away with it? And confess and you'll suffer less pain. Hey, he's 12.
Hey.
Percy is, first time for the Percy is clueless counter, clueless. He does not know what is going on. He's like, I'll do better, ma'am. So sorry, ma'am. Being
Yeah, my
good.
bad.
I'm so sorry, I'll do better. And then a couple things happen really fast. One of them is that Mrs. Dodds turns into a monster.
Monster.
She turns into a monster.
Big monster vibes.
And starts to fly at him because she has wings and she has talons and she has glowing red eyes. And then Mr. Brunner rolls into the room, throws Percy a ballpoint pen. When he grabs it, it turns into a sword and he cuts her in half. She explodes into dust. That is an important thing about the monsters. Very easy cleanup, just like Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yes. More on that later.
More on that later. He is alone in the room. Mr. Brunner's not there. Mrs. Dodds isn't there. He's holding a normal pen, and there's dust on the floor. He walks back outside, talks to Grover, gives Mr. Brunner back his pen, and asks where Mrs. Dodds is. And they both say that they have never heard of a Mrs. Dodds in their life.
Gaslighting a 12-year-old. Gasp. Lighting.
Chapter 2. 3 old ladies knit the socks of death. They're me.
There you go.
I like to knit.
She knits.
Percy goes back to school. Everyone keeps insisting that they've never heard of a Mrs. Dodds and that this blonde lady who's suddenly there has been their math teacher since the beginning of the school year. He starts acting out a lot more. He starts getting into a lot more trouble. And eventually he is asked to not return to Yancey the following year. He does not beat the kicked out of school every year allegations, unfortunately.
No, he does not.
Percy's getting really suspicious of Grover, though, because he can tell when Grover is lying to him. And anytime Percy asks Grover about Mrs. Dodds, he's always like, who?
I don't know.
I don't know who that is. One of the last days of the school year, Grover and Mr. Brunner are talking about Percy late at night, and Percy overhears. And here's something about the solstice deadline.
Little eavesdropping king. Little sneaker.
He's sneaking and sliding around.
Yeah.
At the end of the school year, Percy takes the bus back to Manhattan to go to his mom's apartment. Grover takes the bus with him. Still being very suspicious, Grover admits on the bus that he is supposed to be protecting Percy, which Percy thinks is very laughable because he's been protecting Grover from bullies all year, standing up for him.
And his name is Grover.
Imagine,
like you hear someone's supposed to be protecting you, and their name's
Grover. No, it just wouldn't work.
Sorry
to all the Grovers watching this.
Yeah.
If there are
our
any.
bad.
My bad.
One like is one respect for Grovers.
The bus breaks down. It's really hot. It's like beginning of summer. They leave the bus while the driver tries to figure out what's going on. There's a fruit stand by the side of the road with 3 old ladies sitting in their rocking chairs. One of the ladies, the one in the middle, is holding just the biggest ball of yarn. Mm-hmm. And the other 2 on either side are each knitting giant socks. Huge socks.
Giant.
And the yarn they're using is electric blue. They seem to be looking right at Percy. And as he watches, one of the ladies takes out some scissors and snips.
Scissors.
There
was meaning the whole time.
We knew. Takes out some scissors and snips it. Percy says he can hear it through 3 lanes of traffic. Chapter 3 is called Grover Unexpectedly Loses His Pants.
Hey. And we've all been there.
We've all been there. Percy ditches Grover at a bus stop. Which is kind of a little bit of a lame friend thing to do. And also, can we just say again, they're 12? They're traveling alone.
New York is built different.
Like, Percy just abandoned Grover.
And also, he abandons Grover. Grover insists on the bus, hey, let me go with you.
Yeah, it's really important that I go with you.
And then he gets off the bus, and Percy's like, I know this little kid's gonna have to pee. And he does. He goes to the bathroom, and that's when Percy leaves him.
Yeah.
While he's tinkling.
In the potty.
Because he's 12.
He's 12.
Continue.
So Percy gets a taxi to his mom's apartment, and that's when we meet his stepdad, Smelly Gabe.
Smelly, stinky, gross Gabe.
Print the picture out because I don't like him.
Doesn't matter.
Smelly Gabe is a bitch. Okay? He doesn't care about Percy at all. All he cares about is Percy's mom's cooking, and if he can steal money from a 12-year-old, Percy comes back in and he's like, I can smell money on you. You probably paid with the 20 for the taxi. You have about $7 and change. And he takes it. He's 12, okay?
He's 12.
Percy goes to his room, and his mom comes back from work, and we meet Sally Jackson. Boom. This woman invented mothering.
Let's just take a second. Her kid has been kicked out of 6 boarding schools. Boarding schools are expensive. Hey, you have to pay room and board. They're expensive. 6 boarding schools. And she's just like, all right, let's find the next one.
Right, we'll just move on. Like,
saint.
She smells like cookies. She works at a candy store. She and Percy have this tradition because one of the years that Smelly Gabe was Percy's stepfather, he said that there was no such thing as blue food. And ever since Percy and his mom have gone out of their way to find blue candy, dye things blue, just to kind of do like a stick it to the man kind of thing. Sally comes in after work, and they see each other for the first time in months, probably since Christmas. And Sally says that they get to go to the Montauk cabin this summer, which is huge. And Percy's been going to that since he was a kid, and they haven't gotten to go the last couple of years because Gabe has said that money was too tight.
Because Smelly Gabe sucks.
And he just gambles all their money also. Every time that we see him, he's sitting in their living room playing poker with his equally smelly friends. Gabe lends them his car, and he threatens Percy and says, if there's a scratch on it, you're dead.
Yeah, you know how you talk to your 12-year-old
As
stepson?
if he would be the one driving. They get to the cabin, they have a good time, they catch up about the school year. Sally asks about school, and Percy purposefully doesn't tell her about the attack at the museum because they're having a good time and he doesn't want to worry her.
Yeah, and also, hey, how do you tell anyone about that?
Yeah, they wouldn't believe you probably.
When she turned to dust?
When she turned to dust. So they kind of talk a little bit about Percy's dad because Percy knows that his mom and his dad met at this cabin. He asks his mom if Percy ever got to meet him after he was born, and Sally says no, even though Percy can kind of remember a warm glow, and he thinks that that's his dad, but she says no. So he's like, well, I guess I never met him. They go to bed. This is the first of Percy's vivid dreams. He has a dream of a white horse and a golden eagle fighting on a beach, and a voice from the earth urging them to fight. Percy and his mom wake up to someone pounding at the door. Outside is a soaked Grover, standing in a vicious storm, saying that there's something after them. Sally demands to know if anything else happened at school that Percy didn't tell her about. And he said,
Of course it did.
oh, I got attacked at the museum.
Well, I may or may not have gotten attacked.
And Sally says, well, why didn't you tell me? This is really important. We have to go now.
Now.
Because something's after them. Percy can't really focus on the entire exchange because Grover isn't wearing pants.
Grover's a goat.
He has goat legs.
Goat leg Grover.
Chapter 4 is My Mother Teaches Me Bullfighting. They drive in a panic. It's storming bad. Percy's really confused about why they're doing this, where they're going, why they're driving. They can see that they are being chased by something that is huge and monstrous. You can kind of see it through the storm, but only like every time lightning flashes. So
Not often.
not often, just every once in a while. Boom, something scary. They are driving, they're trying to get away. Something crosses out into the road, like it's looped around and cut them off.
Somehow.
And Percy's mom pulls the wheel, they spin out, and then their car gets struck by lightning.
And I hate when that happens.
I hate when that happens. They get blown off of the road, and there is a hole in the roof. Remember how Gabe said, not a scratch?
Not looking good for Percy.
Not looking
Only because of the
good.
Gabe thing.
Grover is knocked out with this explosion happening.
And goat legs.
And goat legs.
Don't forget about I know you may forget about it sometimes. Don't forget about it.
The whole time he has goat legs.
The whole time. Hooves, babe.
Those are his hooves, bitch.
Grover's knocked out.
Grover's knocked out. Sally says that they need to get to the giant pine tree on the top of the other hill.
The giant pine tree.
Giant pine tree on the top of the hill.
That one.
Okay.
Just in case you were confused by the other pine trees up here.
This one's giant, okay?
It's
It's
giant.
huge. Sally says to leave her behind, and Percy says, no, I'm not doing that.
Hey, you're my mom.
Hey, you're my mom. And Percy and Sally start to carry Grover up the hill because he's knocked out.
Hooves dragging on the ground.
They see the monster for the first time. It is huge, hulking, wearing tidy whities.
You know how you do.
Half man, half bull.
Boom!
It is the Minotaur. The Minotaur. The actual one. Following them.
Like undies.
Undies. He has very bad sight and hearing, so he really relies on smell to find out what he's hunting and can follow people that way. He charges at Percy, and Percy, for some reason, has really good battle instinct and just kind of waits until the Minotaur is right at him and then dodges him. They get to the top of the hill. But Percy's mom can't cross the line that the pine tree makes for whatever reason. Like, there's like a barrier almost that she can't get through. So Percy can get through it, and so can Grover. So Percy drags Grover to the other side of the tree and watches as Sally tries to retreat down the hill to lure the monster away from Percy.
Get a W in the chat for having Sally Jackson as your mom.
The Minotaur charges at Sally, grabbing her by the throat, and she dissolves into light. Golden light. Percy just watched his mom disappear.
Yeah.
Hey.
Let's hop back to that for a second.
He's 12 and he just watched his mom disappear. Percy is filled with rage at the sight of this.
You know how you feel when your mom dies?
He is just like grief and rage, and he wants to kill this thing that hurt his mom. So he starts to fight the Minotaur. And one of the times that the Minotaur charges at him, it kind of leans down. Percy somehow jumps on top of him, spins in midair, and lands like straddling the back of his neck like a little kid on his dad's shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
He grabs one of the Minotaur's horns and pulls with all of his might, and it snaps off.
Which is crazy.
Which is crazy, he's 12.
Hey, he's 12.
He is now on the ground, and the next time it charges at him, he drives the horn up through the Minotaur's ribs, killing it.
Ow.
It turns into dust, but he still has the Minotaur horn because we find out now that when a part of a monster breaks off before they die, it does not die with them. It becomes a spoil. Percy is crying, yelling, and clinging to Grover deliriously.
You know how you feel when your mom dies?
And he starts pulling Grover just on the ground towards the
Dragging
house
him.
that is in the valley. He passes out on the front steps of this house, and the last words he hears are coming from a young girl saying, "He's the one he must be." Chapter 5 is I play Pinochle with a horse.
Hey.
Hey.
Just a regular Saturday night.
Percy drifts in and out of consciousness. Mm-hmm. He kind of is vaguely aware of being in a hospital bed type thing, like a cot, that every time he wakes up, there is a blonde girl there who's either like spoon feeding him something that tastes like popcorn. One time there's a guy just sitting in the corner and he's covered in eyes. And so Percy's like, I'm dreaming. I don't know what's going on. One of the times he kind of wakes up, the girl is like, "What do you know about the summer solstice?" And he's like, and she hears something and like shoves like a spoonful of pudding into his mouth so that he'll go back to sleep.
She says, "You're stupid.
You're
Sleep."
stupid. Go to bed. When Percy finally wakes up for real, Grover is sitting there and
With hooves.
with hooves.
I'm not going to let you forget that.
Percy actually doesn't realize that immediately. He is just like, "Oh, my bestie." And then Grover hands him a shoebox with the Minotaur horn in it, and Percy can see his legs, and he's like, "Oh shit, all of that was real.
Oops.
It was not just a wacky bad dream I had." Percy also drinks something that is in like a glass with ice cubes in it. And when he drinks it, it tastes like his mom's chocolate chip cookies.
Mm.
Like warm cookies, even though it's an iced drink.
Weird.
And I will just say right now that the name of this drink is Nectar. Percy realizes again that his mother is gone. And that sucks to realize twice.
F in the chat.
F in the chat. And Grover takes Percy to go meet the camp director, whose name is Mr. D.
This bad bitch.
We meet Mr. D, who is the camp director. We also meet Annabeth.
She's sliving.
Annabeth Chase,
Chasing what?
chasing her dreams. So they go out, they meet. Mr. D and Percy don't get off on the right foot. Percy D.
Who would
Percy
get
D.
along? Percy D.
Percy D.
Who would get along with this little troll?
Nobody. No crime. Percy has some trouble with authority and doesn't really get along a lot with adults, so it's pretty crazy that he did like Mr. Brunner when he was at ENC Academy. Like the only adult aside from his mom that he actually kind of liked.
And the only adult that has, been sympathetic and nice to him that we know of.
Rooting for him.
Again, he's 12?
He's 12. Have we forgotten that? And also, speaking of Mr. Brunner, when Percy gets into the room fully, he's there. He's there. He's still in his wheelchair,
Hello?
but we are introduced to the fact that his real name is Chiron. It is explained to Percy that the Greek gods are real, and so are all of the myths that were from ancient Greece. Percy doesn't believe this, of course.
Would you?
Would you believe it if someone just told you that?
No.
No, I wouldn't.
But also he's had some evidence presented.
Had some encounters
Yeah.
that might sway him, but he still's like, no, I
Close
believe in
encounter.
science.
Close encounters with the Greek kind.
Yeah. Mr. D then makes a goblet of wine appear out of thin air, and Percy's like, okay, maybe magic is real. Then Chiron's like, Mr. D, you know your orders. You can't have wine. And so he turns it into a Diet Coke can.
Not sponsored.
Not sponsored.
#ad.
This makes Percy realize that Mr. D actually is Dionysus, the god of wine. And it's also explained that Mr. D is at camp because he fell off the wagon years ago and chased a forbidden nymph or something. And staying at camp and being the camp director is his punishment because he hates children. So that's great to have someone in charge who hates children.
Yeah, I think it's a really good plan.
We also learn a little bit more lore about the world, which is that the Greek gods move with civilization and change as civilization does. So when they were in ancient Greece, that's because that's where the center of civilization was, the center of art and culture and things. And so now it is in the US. Then Chiron stands up from his wheelchair and he's a centaur.
Nay!
Alright, chapter 6, I become Supreme Lord of the Bathroom. Chiron gives Percy a tour of the camp. Percy asks if Grover is going to be punished for failing as a protector because Percy's mom ended up being killed. So that doesn't really mark getting Percy there and his family there success. Percy says that Grover deserves a second chance to be a protector. And then Chiron says Percy was his second chance. Oops.
Yikes.
Percy also learns that satyrs, which is the term for
Goat man.
satyr, they mature half as fast as humans. So Grover is 28 years old. Percy learns a lot of things about camp. He sees the whole layout. There's a forest, there's a dining pavilion, an armory, archery, stables, javelin range, a lake. There's more stuff. That's the gist.
You get it.
They also play Capture the Flag every Friday night. They come to the cabins on the tour. There are 12, and they're in a U shape. There's one for every major Olympian god, but some of them are
Empty.
noticeably empty, and some of them are packed full. Annabeth comes to take over the rest of the tour and to bring Percy to cabin 11, which is the Hermes cabin. Hermes is the god of commerce and travelers
And thieves.
and thieves. So the camp counselor for cabin 11 comes and welcomes Percy in. His name is Luke. The other kids in the cabin are like not psyched that Percy's there. They ask whether he's normal or undetermined, and Annabeth answers that he's undetermined. Percy asks how long he's going to be in the cabin, and the answer is until you're determined, which is super helpful.
He's got to choose his major.
Percy asks why this cabin is so full when the other ones are empty, and Annabeth drags him out like that's a stupid question to be asking, when really it's perfectly reasonable to wonder about that.
Yeah.
So Annabeth drags Percy outside and tells Percy that he has to do better and that most kids at camp would kill for a chance to fight a monster like he had. We learned...
Hey, his mom died.
His mom died. It wasn't a really fun experience for him.
Mm-hmm.
We learned that the monsters don't really die. Their bodies are destroyed, but their souls live on and returned to the underworld where their bodies can reform around them. So, important lore.
There's no winning here.
There's no winning. He'll come back eventually. Annabeth also mentions that most kids at camp have ADHD and dyslexia, like Percy does. Turns out that this is one of the characteristics of all of the people at camp because their ADHD is built-in battle reflexes, and their dyslexia is that they are hardwired to read ancient Greek instead of English.
You know how it is.
You know how it is. Annabeth says this because Percy doesn't believe that he is a half-blood. Percy says, no, I'm not a half-blood. Annabeth says that if he weren't a half-blood, eating ambrosia and drinking nectar would have killed him because it's the food of the gods.
Which feels like a little bit of a risk.
Yeah, why did they give that to an unconscious kid? He could
Yeah.
have burst into flames. That's what happens if a mortal eats that. They burst into flames.
They really don't care.
They really don't care. You're going to learn that they play fast and loose with these kids' lives.
Yeah.
We meet a new character who comes up as Annabeth and Percy are talking. Her name is Clarisse LaRue.
Clarisse.
Once again, Percy immediately dislikes this girl. She reminds Percy of every bully who has ever been mean to him, and she immediately is like, wimpy punk, I'm gonna pulverize you.
You suck.
You suck. Just for no reason. And Percy makes some snarky comment in return.
As one does.
As one does. As especially Percy does.
Yeah.
And Clarisse says that she has an initiation for him and drags him to the bathroom.
Percy really is part of the sassy man apocalypse.
He is. No, because you don't even know this. There was a meme in like 2012 onwards. This one specific stick figure wearing a Camp Half-Blood t-shirt with like black hair, and it's a stick figure and it's going like, and then the caption says "per sassy," and I'm gonna make you put a picture of that in the edit because you're right. He was the beginning of the sassy man apocalypse.
Yeah, honestly, no one was sassing like him in
He was
2005.
the initiation point.
Anyway, they're in the bathroom.
In the bathroom, Clarisse tries to give Percy a swirly. Tries to force his head into the toilet.
Gross, by the way. Why was that a
nasty.
thing?
And the descriptions of this bathroom, it's like it hasn't been cleaned in years.
Yeah, it's grody.
Percy doesn't want that to happen.
Hey, surprisingly.
And
Big shocker.
he gets angry again. And suddenly, all of the pipes in the bathroom explode, dousing Clarisse and Annabeth. Everything is wet except for Percy. He has a perfectly dry sphere around him, for some reason.
For some reason.
Clarisse declares that they're enemies now. Annabeth says that she wants Percy on her team for Capture the Flag. Alright, we're on chapter 7, My Dinner Goes Up in Smoke. Annabeth and Percy continue doing the tour. Percy finally comes to terms with the fact that his dad must have been a god. Percy learns that Annabeth's mom is Athena, the goddess of wisdom in battle, and that she lives in cabin 6. Wisdom in battle strategy, sorry. Battle is more Aries.
Yeah.
But battle strategy, being smart about it, that's Athena.
Yeah.
Percy insists that his dad loved his mom and would have told her that he was a god, And Annabeth isn't sure because a lot of kids go unclaimed. That is why Hermes' cabin is so packed.
But also, Sally definitely knew.
Sally definitely knew.
Like, again, Percy's clueless.
Percy's clueless. Sally Jackson is not.
No.
All of the brain cells stayed with Sally.
Yeah, she did not pass a single one on.
No. But the point here is that the gods do not care about their kids at all.
Not one bit. Not at all.
Another kind of lore thing that is told here is that monsters can smell demigods. They can kind of sense how powerful they are. So if there's a really powerful demigod, like monsters can smell them from miles away. Like stink lines coming off of a pie in a windowsill. They float off their little tiptoes towards it. But camp is protected. Monsters can't cross that barrier, and neither can mortals. So some campers stay year-round if they're really powerful or if their home lives aren't great. Annabeth says that she has been at camp since she was 7 years old. She
wee
is
baby.
also 12. So
Also 12.
She has been there for 5 years. You can only leave camp with permission from Mr. D or Chiron, unless it's the end of the year. Or you can leave for a quest. Annabeth knows that there's something going on with the summer solstice, but doesn't know anything about it or what anyone is talking about, and no one will tell her. Even though she's been there for
Campers.
she's been there for longer than most of the campers.
That's good.
Even the ones who are like in college. Annabeth also tells Percy that some of the year-rounders, the people who stay the whole year, they take a field trip every year on the winter solstice to Olympus. Olympus, currently, since it also follows where civilization goes, is on top of the Empire State Building. You can take the elevator up with a button to the 600th floor.
There's not 600
There's not
floors.
600 floors, but there is if you ask real nice.
If you know about it.
If you know a guy. Annabeth says that this year when they went on the winter solstice, right afterwards the weather got really weird, like the gods were fighting about something. The dinner horn sounds, they go to dinner. Percy has to sit with all of the Hermes cabin because he's undetermined. So Luke sits with him to make him feel a little bit more at home. They talk about feeling out of place at camp, and Percy asks about a comment that Clarisse made when they first met about Percy being big 3 material.
Specifically that he's not.
Specifically that he's not big 3 material. So the big 3 are revealed to be the brothers of who are the sons of Kronos. So that's Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades. They are the most powerful, and their kids are the most powerful. So that big 3 material would be someone who is a kid of one of those 3 brothers. Luke reveals that Annabeth is obsessed with a prophecy that she learned earlier in the year, that Annabeth wouldn't go on a quest until someone special showed up. At dinner, they are able to get anything they want in a cup to drink by just saying what they want. Percy drinks blue cherry Coke and drinks a toast to his mom, which is very sweet. They also give an offering of their dinner to a little fire, and the smell of it goes up to the gods. Percy thinks a prayer to his dad and says, "Please tell me who you are." Chapter 8, we capture a flag. Percy starts to get settled into the camp routine. He has his first sword fighting session, and he goes against Luke, who is known at camp as being the most skilled sword fighter that they have. He's doing pretty well. He has kind of a natural talent, but Luke is beating him handily.
Luke's kind of the goat. Not to be confused with this goat.
Different kind.
Different kind of goat. All caps goat.
After they've been training for a while, they're all like hot and sweaty and tired. Luke dunks water on himself, and Percy's like, "Ooh, that sounds
I'm the cocky hen."
refreshing." He dunks water on himself. He feels a lot better and is very energized.
For some reason.
Goes against Luke again and manages to use the disarming maneuver that Luke was trying to teach, which was really difficult, and no one else pulled off. Not even Luke.
Not even him.
Everyone is impressed. I have that in my notes. Everyone is impressed.
And everybody clapped.
And everybody clapped. Grover and Percy catch up. Percy learns that Grover wants something that is called a searcher's license, which is why it sucks so much that he failed on Percy's whole deal. Percy also learns that the 4 empty cabins that are sitting in that U shape of all of the gods are Artemis, who is a maiden goddess. She will never have kids. There's Zeus and Poseidon. Hades doesn't have a cabin.
Kind of rude.
And the other one that's empty is Hera, who is the goddess of marriage. And so it would be kind of bad if she was going around having affairs. The reason that the Zeus and Poseidon cabins are empty is because the big 3, the brothers again, decided to have a pact that they swore on the river Styx, which is the most serious oath you can make, that they would never have kids again because their kids are too powerful. They are too dangerous.
They're Mary Sue's, let's be honest.
They're too world-wrecking. Percy learns about, and I'm going to say this name, and it's going to be different than how I read it as a kid. Thalia. Thalia is how I read it as a kid, but I guess that's how it's spelled. Thalia.
Like she's really tall.
Yeah, she's super tall. Well, she is now.
Spoilers.
Well, you're about to learn. Percy learns about Thalia, who was the illegal daughter of Zeus. Her story is that her 2 other half-bloods and a satyr tried to make it to camp years ago, but were caught on the hill that is right above camp. Thalia sacrificed herself in order to let the other campers make it to safety. She died, and as she was dying, Zeus turned her into a pine tree.
Remember that one?
And now her life force is what maintains the barrier around camp. So that is the reason monsters can't get in. Her sacrifice is what keeps the camp safe.
Pour one out for Thalia.
Very sad. It's capture the flag time. Ares versus Athena. They are the leaders of the teams, so they made alliances with other cabins in order to get everybody involved. Percy and the Hermes cabin are with Athena. Percy's put on border control. Clarisse and a couple of other Ares kids kind of descend upon him and just start beating the shit out of him.
Like, really bad.
Like, trying to kill him. He gets maimed, which they say at the beginning, no maiming.
No killing or maiming.
No maiming. It's also important to note that this is not regular capture the flag, where they're just trying to get flags. They all have weapons and shields and magic items and things. So there's a lot of strategy. It's basically like a mock battle, but they're not supposed to actually hurt each other. Clarisse has an electric spear.
She's crazy for that one.
And Percy can't fight well. None of his gear fits. He doesn't have his own sword. He's using a giant shield that he describes as being the size of an NBA backboard. Hello? That's like...
And he's 12.
And he's 12.
And his sword isn't balanced right.
His sword isn't balanced right. He gets cut badly by one guy in the arm, and the guy pushes him into the creek. Suddenly he feels great.
Crazy.
And he handily knocks down the other 2 campers, and he breaks Clarisse's electric spear in half. Ooh, that's gonna suck. They see Luke from the Hermes team, which Percy's on, come running from the other side with the banner. He crosses the creek line, and his team wins.
Yay!
So Percy realizes that he was bait, basically, to bait out Clarisse and the other strong warriors because they have a vendetta against Percy. Annabeth shows up. She was invisible.
Hey.
She has a hat that when she puts it on, she turns invisible. She notices that Percy's cut on his arm that he just got has been healed.
Weird.
She has him step out of the water, and he's exhausted.
Sleepy.
Suddenly. There's a commotion in the woods. A hellhound appears, which is a giant dog. Giant black, vicious dog. Think...
That's how they speak.
No. It is locked onto Percy and jumps on him and literally tears his chest apart.
Yeah.
Like, they don't go into graphic detail because this is a children's book, but he describes it as being shredded to ribbons, and that all he can feel is this warm and, like, blood all over him. Ew. Badly wounded. Monsters aren't supposed to be able to get into camp.
Yeah. Did you forget about that? Talia?
Talia. So that means that someone from inside of the camp summoned it. Annabeth tells Percy to step back into the water. The wounds heal, and above him begins glowing a green trident, which is the symbol of Poseidon, god of the sea. If only there had been some kind of foreshadowing about water being really beneficial to him.
Yeah, if only there had been some clues or something that would tell us that something was up with that.
Yeah, it just really kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah. Anyway.
Chapter 9. I am offered a quest. Percy moves into the empty Poseidon cabin, and he is miserable because he's all alone.
Oh.
People are avoiding him because he just got attacked by something that was summoned into camp, so, like, being around him is trouble. Why would they even get into it?
Poor kid.
But Luke still gives Percy one-on-one sword training, and Annabeth still teaches him ancient Greek in the mornings, but she's pretty distracted when she does that. Someone prints a newspaper story about Percy and his missing mother and slides it under his cabin door.
Which, like, who did that? How'd they get that?
That's cruel.
Mean. She died.
Second,
And he's 12.
And he's 12. Second Percy dream. He now has a dream about two men fighting. They are muscled and robed and fighting to the death, saying, "Give it back," over and over like children. Then a voice comes from the ground laughing, beckoning Percy down, and the earth splits open and he falls. Percy wakes up in the morning. Grover is coming to bring Percy to Mr. D. He can see in the distance that it's looking like it's about to start raining, but normally weather goes around Camp Half-Blood. It's like the protective cover goes all the way up into the sky. Chiron offers Percy a quest. End of
Like
chapter.
third day of camp.
Percy, for once, puts two and two together and says that he thinks Zeus and Poseidon are fighting over something that's missing. Chiron and Grover are like,
Yes!
How did you know that? Like,
good job!
I didn't tell you that. I mean, like, he shouldn't know any of that.
No. He's just genius.
But he had a dream. It turns out the thing that is missing is Zeus's master lightning bolt. This is the symbol of his power, and it's something that the gods cannot directly take from one another. They are forbidden to. It's not even just that, like, this is not allowed, don't do it.
Mm.
They physically can't take each other's pieces of power. Can't hold them. So, in the past, when things like this have happened, it's been a human hero who will steal them. Zeus thinks that Percy did it.
You didn't even say what Percy's full name is.
Percy Jackson.
No.
What?
Perseus Jackson.
Perseus.
Perseus and Grover at your school.
At your service. The gods think that Percy did it because Poseidon has claimed Percy, and because Percy lives in New York, he could have gotten up there during the winter solstice.
Yeah.
Never mind that Percy didn't know any of this shit then. Poseidon is super offended by this accusation. Zeus demands that it be returned by the summer solstice. That is the deadline that we have heard so much about. Outside, it starts to rain in Camp Half-Blood. Percy is directed to consult the oracle, and he goes up to the attic. And in the corner, there is a mummy, a mummified person.
Are you my mummy?
Not even like an Egyptian mummy, just like a withered human person. Not preserved. And she's dressed like a hippie. Percy asks it for a prophecy, and it responds, "You shall go west and face the god who has turned. You will find what was stolen and see it returned. You shall be betrayed by one who calls you a friend, and you shall fail to say what matters most in the end."
Not looking great.
Not looking great. Percy comes back downstairs. Chiron asks what the prophecy was, and he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go west and I'll find what was stolen."
And that's it.
And that's it.
Nothing else.
And Chiron's like, "Are you sure there wasn't more?" And he was like, "Nope, that was it. Don't worry about the rest." Chiron breaks the news that he suspects that Hades stole the bolt.
The evil god did an evil god thing? Anyway.
The entrance to the underworld is in Los Angeles.
Because of course.
Percy asks Grover to join him on the quest, and then Chiron says that quests are always undertaken with 3 people. And Annabeth also volunteers, taking off her hat where she was listening invisible the entire time.
Queen behavior.
So now we have trio.
The trio.
Is this where you stopped?
Yes.
Okay.
So now I don't know anything.
We'll be learning just like you all will be. Chapter 10.
10.
I ruin a perfectly good bus. They pack for the quest. Percy is given from the camp store $100 and 20 gold drachmas, which are the currency of the gods and just the beings in the Greek world.
So that's how the Minotaur bought his itty-bitty tiny whiteys.
Yeah, with the drachmas. They're also given some nectar and some ambrosia because it can heal demigods when they're injured. So,
or Percy could just get in the water.
Or Percy could get in the water. But it could also heal, I don't know. It could just heal. Grover can't eat the stuff, by the way, because he's not a half-blood.
But he was very curious earlier how it tasted.
Yeah, he wanted to know how it tasted because he wants to know. Because it tastes like something that's comforting to you. That's why Percy's tastes like his mom's chocolate chip cookies. Annabeth brings her invisibility hat and her bronze dagger. Grover brings his reed pipes that he plays magical music on. And he brings some tin cans because he's a goat and he just eats them.
I forgot about that part. Yeah, so they're sitting like outside playing that one game earlier that we didn't know how to pronounce.
Pinochle.
And like Dionysus has his Diet Coke and he finishes it and Grover's like, "You done with that?
Can I eat it?"
And then eats the can.
Like, can we just think about that? Because his top half is human. He ate that with his human teeth.
With his human chompers. Anyway, tin cans.
Tin cans.
That's his food.
They are getting ready to leave camp. They're going to be driven to a bus stop by Argus. Argus is the guy covered in eyes that Percy saw that one time.
Comforting.
Yeah, he's like the security guard. He keeps an eye on things. Luke comes to say goodbye to them, to wish them luck, and because Grover and Annabeth both have like magic items, he wants to give Percy a gift. He gives him a gift of winged shoes, like Hermes shoes.
Cute.
With little wings on the heel, so that he'll also have a magic item. But after Luke leaves, Percy's like, "Hey guys, it's probably not a good idea for me to be flying, right?" Because, like, Zeus hates me and all.
And he's kind of the god of the sky.
Yeah. And they're like, "Yeah, you probably shouldn't wear these." So they give them to Grover.
But it was sweet.
It was sweet. So now Grover has flying shoes.
Cool.
Percy's like, "I wish that I just had something of my own." Just kind of sad. Being like, "I don't have a weapon that works for me or anything." Chiron hands Percy the pen that he was given in the museum. When he takes the cap off of it, it turns into a sword.
For reference, this is what a pen looks like.
Yes, but it wouldn't be that kind of pen. It's a ballpoint pen with a removable cap.
But just imagine.
In the movies, it's a clicky pen, and when he clicks it, it turns into a sword. Which is cool.
I'm editing this into a sword. Ready? Whoa, look at my cool sword! That's crazy.
Alright. When Percy puts, like, the cap to the end of his sword, it just shrinks back down into a pen. And Percy's like, "Oh, that's sick." But then he's also like, "Damn, I'm notorious for losing pens. Like, at school." He has ADHD. He forgets where he puts things.
Yeah.
But Chiron's like, "No, throw it as far as you can." And Percy does, and then he checks his pocket, and it's in his pocket.
That's camp. I wish my pens did that.
Cool as hell. Chiron says that the name of this sword is Anaklusmos.
Yep.
Which translates to Riptide. Chiron also mentions something called the Mist for the first time. The Mist is the veil that keeps mortals from seeing the weird shit that is from the mythic world. So For example, if Percy were to pull this sword out in public and a mortal saw it, they would think it was like a baseball bat or a gun or something.
Steve Harrington behavior.
Yeah. You don't have to worry about if someone... I mean, you have to worry if someone thinks you're holding a baseball bat.
Yeah, it's like not a
But
good look.
it's better than holding a sword.
A magic sword.
Argus drives them to a bus stop. Percy and Annabeth discuss on the way the ancient rivalry between Poseidon and Athena. They hate each other. And how their descendants never get along. Grover reveals that the reason that Sally married Smelly Gabe is because his stench is so foul that it kept him covered from monsters finding him. Damn. She stayed with this abusive asshole, this terrible, terrible man, to protect Percy. For context, it's described that he smells like moldy garlic pizza wrapped in gym shorts. Percy thinks privately that his real goal on this quest is to take his mom from the underworld.
Accurate.
They get on the bus, they sit in the back of the bus, and not even like 10 minutes in, 3 old ladies board the bus. Not the 3 old ladies from the rocking chairs. One of them is Mrs. Dodds. And the other 2 look kind of like Mrs. Dodds. We learn that Mrs. Dodds is a Fury. There are 3 Furies, and they serve Hades. They are known as the most vicious monsters that Hades has. All 3 of them are on the bus, looking for Percy. They start to head towards the back of the bus, and Percy, Annabeth, and Grover come up with a little plan. Percy puts on Annabeth's invisibility hat and slips past them in the aisle to get to the front of the bus, so that when they get to the back looking for him,
He's not there.
He's not there. The Furies start to fight Annabeth and Grover anyway. So Percy, at the front of the bus,
Invisible.
jerks the steering wheel, and they're inside of a tunnel. They hit the side of the tunnel and like screech along. They get out of the tunnel, and he's like wrestling this bus driver.
Still invisible.
Still invisible, trying to get the wheel.
This driver is like...
The Furies get out their flaming whips, fighting these 2 12-year-olds, 12 and 14-year-old, respectively. And Percy throws the emergency brake on the bus. They spin out, like getting onto the side of the road, and the bus basically breaks. The driver gets everyone out, and then the bus gets struck by lightning. After they get off the bus, Grover's like, oh shit, we left all of our stuff on there. And then it gets struck by lightning. Chapter 11, we visit the Garden Gnome Emporium. They walk through the woods. They are cold, wet, and 12 years old.
And one of them's a goat.
And one
Hey,
of them's
did you
a goat.
forget?
Percy asks a little bit more about how Annabeth says she hasn't left camp since she was 7 years old. And she admits that part of the reason she was so excited to go on this quest is to find out if she was any good or not. Because they just train and train, and they never get to know if they're actually improving. So she wants to prove herself with this quest. They're so hungry. It has been hours. Like, it's raining, and they're just wandering. They don't have a map. They also don't have phones. This is an important thing to touch on. Monsters can also track when a demigod is using a cell signal. It's like...
What kind of fuckery?
It, like, sets off, like, an alarm, basically.
What kind of fuckery?
Which is, I think... I mean, it doesn't make a ton of sense in, like, practical terms, but it makes for a very good, like, way to not date the story. Because they don't have, like, ancient flip phones.
Mm-hmm.
They start to smell food while they're in the woods. And they come across something called Auntie M's Garden Emporium. This is a professional board.
There's string.
They find Auntie M's Garden Emporium. It looks kind of like a garden store where they sell a bunch of statues for, like, different things. For gardens. And Grover is getting a bad vibe. He doesn't like it one bit. But Percy and Annabeth are soups hungry. And they're like, we're gonna check it out anyway.
Yeah.
Like, we don't care. They meet this woman called Auntie M. She is...
Do you think she runs the store?
Probably not.
Yeah, I doubt it.
I doubt it. She is, Percy thinks probably Middle Eastern. She is covered like head to toe in kind of like a burqa kind of thing. Only her, only her mouth is visible and like her hands, like just fully clothed, covered.
Not even her eyes?
No. She has kind of like a veil situation where like you can see she has eyes and that she can see.
Yeah.
But like,
Gotcha.
yeah. They tell Auntie M that they're orphans who got lost from their circus caravan.
Yeah.
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 And
No,
Auntie
that's the
M
best option.
is like, oh, you poor dears, I will give you food. And like gives them like heaping trays of food, like burgers, fries, milkshakes, the whole deal. Grover is a vegetarian and is eating the paper that comes under the tray. But like, no one's faced by this. Auntie M speaks vaguely about her statues. She says that she doesn't get a lot of visitors anymore ever since the highway was built because there's not a lot of foot traffic. They're not like in the middle of the woods. They're on like a kind of empty road. Like that's the store. So she's like, I'm really lonely. Like I make these statues to like bring me comfort. And she keeps like doting on Percy and she's being kind of rude to Annabeth. And we don't really know why. Percy's like sleepy and full of food. And he's like, oh, this nice woman. So nice. Annabeth is like very on edge.
Yeah.
And Auntie M says that she so rarely gets to make statues of children and asks if she can take a photo of them for reference.
Surely don't let them do that.
Annabeth doesn't want to. Percy says, she's been so nice to us, she's fed us. Let's just pose for a photo. Let's go sit on this bench. And Auntie M asks them to pose and goes to remove her veil. Annabeth goes invisible and pushes Percy and Grover to the ground so that they don't look at her.
Statues! Statues!
Percy can see her reflection in a garden sphere, and there is a wriggling mass of snakes for her hair. Auntie M. Medusa.
Okay, so
All right.
there's Medusa. Don't look at her.
So Percy's on the ground. He's not looking at her on purpose. Grover has turned on his flying shoes. There is an activation word that he says. It's like Maya or something. And that turns the wings on. So he's like kind of fluttering out of reach. And Annabeth is invisible so that she can avoid Medusa. Medusa says that Athena is the one who cursed her to be this way.
She is.
Which is why Medusa hates Annabeth.
That makes sense.
Grover attacks Medusa while flying. I should also mention that when they first walked in, Grover remarks on a statue that is a satyr, and he says that it looks like his uncle Ferdinand.
Oh.
And right before Medusa takes off her veil, he's like, that really looks like my Uncle Ferdinand. And so when he's attacking her, he's like, this is for him.
Do you know the feminist take on why Athena turned Medusa into that?
Mm-hmm. I do like that.
Should we tell the audience? Should we discuss?
You can take the wheel.
Okay. This is the one thing I know. So, in the actual Greek myth, Medusa as a human being is tending to a temple of Athena, and then someone rapes her. Is it a god that rapes her?
I think it might be Poseidon.
I think it's Poseidon, unfortunately.
In the Percy Jackson book, she refers to Poseidon as her boyfriend, which is why she likes Percy.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Noted. Okay, so Medusa is assaulted inside of a temple of Athena, and the actual myth goes that Athena punishes her by turning her into this because she had herself defiled, and B, had herself defiled in the temple, which is a very man take on this. So a lot of feminist scholars have taken it to be that Athena was forced to do something as punishment to Medusa by the other gods because, hey, let's not hold Poseidon accountable for his actions. And so Athena does the only thing that she can do, which is gives Medusa the best weapon she has to protect herself. And so that's why she can turn people to stone. It allows her to finally protect herself. And that was actually a gift that Athena was trying to give her while also still following the big three gods' demands. So that's the take, and that's what you missed on Glee. Greek mythology.
So Grover is attacking her in retribution for his uncle, who was killed by Medusa. Annabeth finds Percy, still invisible, and is like, Percy, you need to be the one to cut her head off. Because Annabeth only has a knife and Percy has a sword, and because Medusa hates Annabeth so much, she would never be able to get close enough to do anything. Percy gets close to her by being, like, nice and saying that he's on her side, and then cuts her head off. But what have we learned about what happens when a part of a monster is severed?
It's a spoil, so now it's a weapon.
So her head is still there.
Which is what happens in Clash of the Titans.
Oh. Does that happen in the myth? I don't remember.
I can't remember either, but that's how he stops. It has to be, because that's how he stops the Kraken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So her body disintegrates, but her head is still left behind.
So then can she come back? At that point, because she'd be headless.
I don't remember. I don't remember if they talked about that.
Yeah.
But I think that every time that they grow back, like, the Minotaur will eventually reform and he'll have both of his horns.
Okay, so then there's just this is
Medusa?
just...
I don't know. I'll have to look this up because I don't remember. We'll put
We'll put it right here.
Screen.
Okay, that's enough time. Good.
They wrap the head in plastic bags. Percy is thinking really hard about something that Medusa said before he cut her head off, which is that the gods don't care about him and that he's just a pawn for them and that they're risking his life and sitting comfortably up there. Percy, thinking about that, finds a box in the storage room, puts the head in it, and writes the address of the gods on top. Fills out a Hermes delivery slip, and it disappears.
And now we're halfway through.
So we're gonna go get food.
We're gonna go get food, and we'll be back.
We'll be back.
For you, it'll just be like, and we're back.
We're back. We got chapter 12. We get advice from a poodle.
That's always where I go.
Yep. After the whole Auntie M stuff, they make camp in the woods. Grover remarks about the littering and the pollution around and says it makes him incredibly sad. The satyrs, which Grover is one of, half goat, they follow Pan, god of the wild. So they were all nature
First name
people.
Peter.
Yeah. No, exactly. Grover tells Percy that Pan disappeared 2,000 years ago.
He went to Neverland. Yeah, we're there.
And that satyrs have been searching for him ever since. No searcher has ever returned alive, including Grover's dad. This is why he wants a searcher's license.
Okay.
So he wants
He thinks he can do it.
He thinks he can be the person to find Pan. Grover also says that he and Annabeth think something is weird with the quest. That the Furies, when they were on the bus, were holding back, even though they were definitely being pretty aggressive, and that they were saying, where is it, not where is he? Talking about an object, not a person. Percy reveals in this heart-to-heart that he only cares about saving his mom, and Grover asks if there's a part of him that wants to prove himself to his dad, which Percy denies. They go to sleep. Percy has another dream.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? He's in a dark cavern. On the edge of the pit, there is a chilling voice in the pit.
Because of course.
That says to barter in exchange for his mother.
Ooh.
Percy feels the presence tugging on him from inside the pit. And he realizes it's not trying to pull him in. It's trying to use him to pull itself out.
Dun, dun, dun.
Ominous. Percy wakes up. Grover has a pink poodle in his lap. Here's where we learned another important thing about Grover, which is that he can speak to animals.
That's slay.
So he has spoken with this pink poodle, whose name is Gladiola.
And I'm just clarifying, like the whole poodle is pink?
Yes.
Okay.
The poodle is dyed pink.
Okay. Like a hot pink, you think? Pastel?
Probably pastel,
Mm.
I would imagine. This poodle doesn't like its owner and ran away, probably because it was dyed pink. Grover has talked to Gladiola, and Gladiola says that Grover can turn him in for his reward money in order to get them train tickets.
Well, that's nice.
Yes.
What a nice giving pink poodle.
I know. So they get tickets for the westbound Amtrak. So then we move on to chapter 13. I plunge to my death.
That seems
like a jump.
It's going well. Ah.
Okay. They get on the train. Percy sees a picture in a newspaper that someone has claiming that Percy is now a suspect in the disappearance of his mother.
Which is so dumb.
So dumb.
Because, once again, I cannot stress enough, he's 12.
But there were blurry photos of him fighting old ladies on the bus with a baseball bat. His sword is in a blur in the photo, so people have interpreted it as a baseball bat. Now he is wanted.
Wanted man.
Wanted man. Wanted 12-year-old.
Wanted boy.
Annabeth overheard Percy talking in his sleep, which is something that canonically he does. He also drools. That is the first thing that Annabeth says to him is, "Do you drool in your sleep?"
A love story for the ages.
Yeah. Annabeth says that Percy cannot barter with Hades. Because he overheard him talking about bartering for his mom. She says that she would never go to that trouble for her dad, who treated her like a burden and tried to have a normal life without her, remarrying a mortal woman, having 2 stepkids, and ignoring Annabeth.
Okay, well, Sally Jackson's built different, so jot that down.
Annabeth ran away at 7 years old and only was able to make it to camp because she met people along the way who brought her there.
Which is so lucky.
Lucky. She would have died. She was 7.
Had the wherewithal to run away.
Yeah. Through the windows on the train, they can see the St. Louis Arch. Annabeth remarks that she wants to build a monument like that one day because she dreams of being an architect to create something that will last for ages. They have a stop in St. Louis on the train, and Annabeth insists that they have to go see it because she doesn't know the next time that she will get the chance to go see this huge monument. Arch. All right. They head to the Arch, which is about a mile away from the bus stop, or the train stop, whatever. While they're in the lobby, Percy asks Grover if he can smell monsters, because he can. But they're underground, and Grover remarks that underground always smells like monsters, so he can't tell if there's anything with them.
Weird.
They also talk a little bit about Hades' object of power, because Zeus is his lightning bolt, Poseidon is his trident. Hades has a helm of darkness that is kind of like Annabeth's invisibility cap. So Percy's like, how do we know he's not here with us right now? And they're like, well, we don't. So they get into the tiny elevator. It's very tiny. They get in, they go all the way to the top. Percy's like, hey, this is scary. It's really high up. He doesn't like heights because Zeus will kill him.
Yeah, the god of the sky.
But Annabeth is like giving them fun facts. Grover is giving Percy jelly beans. And so
Grover is giving.
Grover is giving. So they're having a good time.
He's giving goat.
He's giving goat. They're up there, they're having a good time. They're about to go down. And the way that the elevators actually work is that they have to fill it to capacity to send it down. So the elevator gets full and Percy's not in it. And so Grover and Annabeth are like, well, we'll just wait for the next one. And the guy's like, no, we kind of have to keep it moving. Like, pick something. And so Percy's like, it's fine, I'll meet you guys at the bottom.
Never a good thing.
and they go
Don't
down.
split the party.
Don't split the party. Something that I didn't mention is that when they got in the elevator up, there was someone else in the elevator with them. It was a really old lady and her tiny chihuahua. The chihuahua had a rhinestone collar, which is a fun detail. While they're up there, the chihuahua starts barking. Really a lot. And the lady is like, not now, Sonny. Not now. Percy's like, oh, Sonny, is that your dog's name? And she says, no. And the dog starts going crazy. And every time it barks, it grows bigger. And bigger and bigger and bigger. And then it starts to change and it's not a dog anymore.
It's a lion.
It is a chimera.
Close enough.
Close enough. So a chimera has the head of a lion, the tail of a snake, like a snake's head as a tail, and like all these other animals kind of like morphed into it. Mm-hmm. The lady reveals herself as Echidna, which is the mother of all monsters.
Hey.
Percy says, oh, Echidna, like the anteater? And she does not like that. There is another family up there, like 2 parents and a little boy, I think, a child, and the chimera starts to go for them. It is not interested in Percy because of godhood, it just wants to eat people.
Yeah.
And so Percy's like, these are civilians. I have to protect them.
Of course, because I'm 12.
He tries to strike at it with his sword, doesn't do anything, like glances off at him.
Cool.
Find out the chimera can breathe fire.
Oh.
And it blows a hole through the side of the arch. So now there's just a gaping hole in the side of this monument.
I fear that someone plunges to their death. Don't know what gave me that impression.
Percy tries to hit the monster with the sword to draw it away from the civilians, and the snake tail bites him. And it is poisonous.
Ooh.
Very badly poisonous.
Not good.
I think that Echidna says as soon as the poison reaches your heart, you'll be dead. And it'll take like a minute.
Yeah.
His sword falls out of the hole.
Of course.
And it does not reappear back in his pocket. Ooh. He's like, I don't know if it only does that when it's in pen form, if it fell too far, if it's going to take a while, but it is not back in his pocket.
It gone.
Echidna kind of taunts Percy and is like, you have no trust in the gods. A true son of Poseidon would not be afraid of jumping into the river that's below the arch. And Percy says, well,
say less.
Say less. He says, Father, help me, and then falls out of the arch. For reference, the real arch does not go over the river. It's like 200 feet to the side. There is no feasible way to actually jump into the river, but Rick Riordan didn't know that.
Yeah.
When he wrote this. He
thought it's close by.
He thought it kind of like went through it, which would be really cool.
Yeah.
But no.
No.
So I'm curious to see how they managed to do that in the show, because they filmed on location. Chapter 14, I Become a Known Fugitive.
And that's arguably the important step for any YA protagonist.
Yeah.
Become a fugitive of the state.
Percy lands in the river, and he is totally unharmed. It heals the poison.
Yep.
It heals his burns.
Yep.
And he discovers he can breathe underwater.
That's cool.
And that he's completely dry.
He would kill it in the Triwizard Tournament.
Oh, yes. He picks up a, McDonald's wrapper out of the water, because it's polluted as hell. It's the Mississippi River. That turns dry. He picks up a lighter. He sets it on fire. Just at the bottom of this river, holding fire. Crazy. Percy sees a woman in the water, a spirit of some kind, that kind of reminds him of his mom.
Mm.
She is a messenger from Poseidon, who requests that before Percy goes into the underworld, that he makes a stop to Santa Monica Beach in California. Before she fades away, she tells Percy to be safe and to not trust the gifts. Percy gets out of the river. There's a media frenzy around because people think that a terrorist attack just happened.
Yeah.
At the top of this monument, Percy hears that there are survivors, so he knows that the family is safe.
Good.
That was up there, that they survived. But an adolescent boy was spotted going crazy up there.
Oh, Percy.
He finds Grover and Annabeth and explains what happened, and as they're walking out, they hear a reporter connect it to Percy Jackson. So they book it back to the Amtrak to continue on towards Denver. That is their next stop. Chapter 15. This one is a long one. It's called A God Buys Us Cheeseburgers.
Best thing a god can do for you.
So their train takes them to Denver, and they decide that they're going to try to get a message to camp. Remember, they can't have cell phones.
Yep.
So what they do instead is they're going to try and send an iris message, or an IM. So Iris is the goddess of rainbows.
Mm-hmm.
So what they do is that they go and find a car wash, they set it to mist, and they put it in the sun, and it makes a rainbow. When they toss a golden drachma in and say where they want to go, a kind of floating FaceTime-like image will appear in front of them.
Okay.
So they do that, and they say, just Half-Blood Hill, to get to someone at camp. Trying to talk to Chiron, but Chiron doesn't pick up. It's Luke who takes the message. Luke reports that tensions at camp are really high right now because some people found out about the Zeus and Poseidon fight and are taking sides and are having battles. They kind of side with who their parents side with, and they're just kind of building tensions for problems that aren't there.
Yeah.
Which is bonkers. Percy gives him an update on the quest to tell Chiron about, and Luke reaffirms that it must have been Hades who stole the bolt because it was stolen at the winter solstice, and that is the only time of the year that Hades is invited to Olympus. All other times he does not have a seat. He's only allowed because it's the darkest day of the year. The car wash pump is running out of time, so as it's cutting off, Luke says something like, "And tell Grover it'll go better than last time. No one will get turned into a pine tree." And the
No!
So Percy's like, whoa, and he doesn't say anything about it. He just keeps it to himself because at this moment, Percy's the only one talking to Luke because a car has pulled up in the place next to them with really loud music, and Annabeth and Grover go to tell that guy to turn his music down. Also, Annabeth has kind of a crush on Luke, has kind of like a hero. And hey. Look at him.
Hey.
So
Percy has a crush on Luke.
Percy has a crush on Luke. So she sees Luke pop up and is like, oh my god, I haven't showered in like 3 days. My hair's a mess, and is like really excited to get out of there.
Yeah.
So he doesn't tell anyone about that. The kids are really hungry, and they're out of money.
Yeah.
Because again, all their stuff blew up. They decide to go to a diner to see if they can make a sob story to get some food.
As they have successfully done once.
Yes. When they get inside, there is a biker guy who shows up on a motorcycle. This guy's very scary looking. Another weird thing that's mentioned in the book is it looks like the seat for his motorcycle is made out of Caucasian human skin. Hey, Rick.
Hey, Rick.
What the fuck?
Hey.
I get that he's scary, but what do you mean?
Yeah, well, let's
talk about it.
Like,
Anyway, he walks inside and says he's going to pay for the kids' food. Already a suspicious thing at this point.
thanks, scary man.
Percy feels instantly angry in this guy's presence. Kind of like he is emitting an aura, a fighting aura, and puts together that he is Ares, god of war, and Clarisse's dad. Ares says he has a job for them to do. He was on a date with his girlfriend, got interrupted, and he left his shield behind. He needs them to go and get it because he can't be bothered to.
Side quest.
Side quest. He says in exchange he will get them a ride west and tell Percy some information on his mom.
Fair enough.
They realize they can't say no, although Percy tries to because he is angry and doesn't like authority, again, doesn't like being told what to do. They agree to go get it. They are sent to an abandoned water park called Waterland. So this is an abandoned water park, probably based off of Waterworld. Waterworld is the biggest water park in the US, apparently.
Huh.
So it might be based on that. But this one's abandoned. They go in and they steal fresh clothes from the gift store because they're stinky and it's abandoned. So who's using it? So they are just fully decked out in Waterland merch, a walking ad. And they're told that the shield is in the Tunnel of Love. They find it, and around it is kind of like an empty basin is the part that's right outside and before it goes into the tunnel. There's a kind of marooned ride seat thing in the very center at the bottom. Think like a skating rink dome, and around the edge are like statues of cupids. At the entrance, it's called the Thrill Ride O' Love. Anyway, Annabeth finds a Greek letter carved into one of the fake cupid statues, and it's like, that's weird, but she can't place what letter it is at the moment. Percy tells Annabeth to come with him, and she's like, me? Come with you into a tunnel of love? What if someone saw me?
Ew.
Ew. And Percy's like, who would see you? But he's embarrassed
Yeah.
that she is making it an embarrassing thing. And she's like, fine, I'll go. But she's like, boys ruin everything.
He like already asked Grover, and Grover said no.
Grover was like, I shouldn't go.
No. Grover knew the end game.
They go down. Next to the shield is a scarf, like a pink silky scarf. It belongs to Aphrodite.
Slay.
who
Oh my
is-
god, are they together?
Who is Ares' girlfriend.
Ah!
Even though Aphrodite is married to Hephaestus. Percy points this out, and Annabeth is like, so? They're gods.
Yeah, monogamy is not their strong
They do
suit.
whatever they want. They pick up the shield. There's a tripwire attached to it. All of the Cupid statues turn inward and start shooting arrows. Not at them, but across the top of the dome, making a golden net, sealing them in. The Cupid statues say that they're counting down to broadcast live to Olympus, and it's counting down from 60 seconds. They are stuck in there, big web over top, and an army of mechanical spiders pour out from somewhere, from the edges of it.
Now, hateful.
Hateful. Annabeth hates spiders.
Oh.
Because Arachne hates Athena. And because of ancient beef, all spiders find children of Athena wherever they are. They will seek them out. So Annabeth has like a paralyzing fear of spiders.
Yeah.
So when this army comes flooding towards her, she freezes. And she can't do anything. So it is now up to Percy to save the day. This countdown is counting down, as they do. Annabeth is paralyzed by fear, and the ride is broken, so there's like no water. Percy tells Grover to get to the control room to turn the water on. He does, nothing happens. So Percy kind of closes his eyes and tries to feel for the power of the time that he's commanded water before accidentally. This is the first time that he actually purposefully
trying to.
does it. And right as the countdown ends, water floods in. It pushes them into the tunnel, which is, again, a thrill ride. So it's bouncing around. All the spiders are rushing after them still into the water. And as they're going throughout the tunnel, they see at the end of it crashed rides. Crashed like boats that they're in up against this gate.
That's not good.
It's not good. So they're like, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
Percy is saying that they need to jump before they hit the gate to make it over. And is like, on my count. And Annabeth is like, no, on my count. I'm smarter than you.
Yeah. She's the strategizer.
And she kind of shakes out of the spider thrall.
She kind of needed to be mean to Percy.
Yeah.
To get back to her true self.
Yeah. They jump when Annabeth says to. They get the maximum amount of height. If they had jumped when Percy would have said, they would have crashed into the gate. because he sees it crash when he would have jumped. But it gives him too much air, and they are just shot through the air, over the fence.
I think Grover's just sitting outside eating some cans on the ground.
Luckily, actually, Grover was ready.
Hey.
And he was flying, and he catches them.
Ah, the shoes.
He does.
Now Percy wishes he had those shoes.
He does not stop them from crashing, though. He just kind of slows it so that they don't die.
Hey.
But they crash. Percy waves off the camera, says goodnight, hope you enjoyed the show, and is like, I'm ready to go give Ares a piece of my mind, because how dare he set us up like this. Alright, chapter 16, we take a zebra to Vegas. Percy angrily gives the shield back, and in return, Ares gives them a backpack of supplies, points them towards a humane zoo transport van, and says it's going west. The information that he tells Percy about his mom is that his mom is not dead.
Okay, Ben knew. Like,
We didn't know for sure. He's kind of been thinking that she's dead.
we figured.
Just that he could take her out of the underworld. But the disappearing into light is a sign that she was taken, not killed.
That makes sense.
It's a state of metamorphosis, is what it's called. They get into the van. It is not a humane zoo transport. There is a lion, a zebra, and an antelope in the back. They're all starving. And stinky and smelly. And the food they're given is in the wrong containers. Like, there's a steak given to the zebra and, like, veggies given to the lion. So they get back there. They kind of switch the food around. Grover tries to talk to them and is like, hey, can we help? But they're all just, like, starving. Don't really talk back to him. Annabeth talks about her spider fear, about the Arachne story and everything, and asks about Luke's message. And Percy mentions Luke's pine tree comment. Grover apologizes for keeping it from Percy, saying he didn't think Percy would want him on the quest if he knew the truth. Grover was the satyr assigned to bring Talia to camp, and the other two half-bloods with them were Annabeth and Luke.
So not only was Grover lying, but Annabeth was too.
Lying. And so this means it was 5 years ago. Grover was the satyr to find Talia and sense her power, and he was only supposed to bring her to camp. But along the way, they found Luke and Annabeth, and he thought that he could get all three of them there safely.
But like all the combined smell.
All the combined, it slowed them down. They took a couple wrong turns, and they ended up getting to camp being followed by all the Furies, hordes of monsters, which ended up in Talia dying. Annabeth talks about the bees on her necklace, and about how she has the most from camp, apart from with Luke, and that the ring on it is a ring that her dad sent her, which is a keepsake that Athena gave her dad when he was going through his doctoral program. She got the ring in the mail 2 years ago when her dad tried to reach out to reconnect with her. Mm-hmm. She tried to go home and live with him again, and it still didn't work, so she came back to camp. Percy falls asleep. They're on the van for a long time. It's a long drive. In his dream, he is taking a test with a straitjacket on, which is a test or a dream that he has had many times before, apparently, while a teacher is calling him stupid. Sucks.
He's 12.
He's 12. Only this time, there is a punk-looking girl with spiky hair and eyeliner, also in a straitjacket, next to him. And Percy knows instantly that she is Talia. And she says, well, what are we going to do to get out of this one seaweed brain? Seaweed brain is what Annabeth calls him. Mm-hmm. The dream changes, and Percy is back in the pit room. And he's overhearing a conversation from the voice in the pit and someone else. The other voice admits to stealing the Master Bolt, and the voices realize that Percy has brought himself there. So he was not actually brought in like he had been in other prophetic dream kind of things.
Mm-hmm. He pulled himself into it.
He pulled himself in there, so he was really overhearing legitimate information. The voice in the pit then says, oh, you want to dream about your quest? And shows him an image of his mom frozen in the metamorphosis, like next to a throne of bones. The truck stops, and for some reason, Percy can hear what the zebra is saying. It says, "Free me, Lord," to Percy. The antelope is telling Grover that the truck guys are animal smugglers. Percy realizes that, or maybe thinks that, because Poseidon created horses, he can hear what horse-like creatures are thinking. So Percy's a horse girl. And he can hear the zebra's thoughts. Or he can hear the zebra talking to him.
Sure.
At least.
Sure.
Yeah. They free the zebra.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they free the lion and the antelope too.
Okay, lion's totally gonna be the antelope.
Grover does a blessing on them, but like this would disbalance the ecosystem so bad.
Yeah, hey, they're in Vegas.
They're in Vegas. They stumble into a hotel called the Lotus Hotel and Casino. This is the path so far. We're pretty far west. They go in and this place is amazing. It is a huge hotel. The entire lobby has like hundreds of arcade games. There's VR, there's waitresses, there's snack bars, there's no lines for anything. And the concierge comes and tells them that their stay has been paid for and gives them a key card and an unlimited Lotus cash card.
Dang.
Yeah.
And what's a girl gonna do?
What's a girl gonna do? Diamond's gotta shine. They have access to a very fancy hotel room at the very top, and they can play any of the games they want. All of it is free for them. They go up, and the room is so fancy. It's got a jacuzzi, a snack bar. There's a closet full of clothes, and somehow they all fit them. Weird. Percy throws away the backpack that Ares gave him because he's like, fuck that guy. We have stuff now. I want this stuff and not whatever Ares gave us. They decide to go relax and play games for hours. At this point, they're in Vegas and they still have like 6 days left. So like, they're pretty good on time. They go down and just have an absolute blast. like they're just kids and they're so excited to play as many games as they want. Percy does indoor snowboarding.
That sounds
bungee
cool.
jumping, laser tag.
This place is not real.
Yeah. Annabeth plays a game where she can build a holographic city and like see it rise up, which is her dream. Grover is playing a reverse deer hunting game where the deer take revenge on the hunters. Yeah, Percy makes friends with this other kid who's playing this game. His name is Darren. And Darren's like, man, I've been here for 2 weeks. The games just keep getting better and better. Like, they bring in new stuff all the time. It's actually bonkers. And Percy realizes this guy's dressed weird. And he asks Darren what year it is, and Darren says it's 1977. He asks more people who are playing around, like playing games around them. Their answers are all different. One says 1985, one says 1997. They're all different. They're all dressed from various different decades. Percy tries to remember what he's doing there. He's having trouble remembering, and for a second, he can't remember his mom's name.
It's like a real casino.
Percy tries to break Annabeth out of it, and she's not budging. So he goes up to her, shakes her, and goes, "Spiders! Big hairy spiders!" And that breaks her out of it enough to be like,
yeah.
Whoa. They try and get Grover out, and Grover turns the fake gun around on them and is like, "Die, polluting humans!"
Yeah. And hey, he's not wrong.
And he's not wrong. They drag Grover away. They leave the casino. Somehow Ares' bag is still with them, even though they threw it away. Percy grabs a newspaper. The date reads June 20th. They'd been in the casino for 5 days, and they only have 1 day left for their quest.
Damn.
For context, from their perspective, they'd been in there for maybe
20 minutes?
3 hours.
Yeah.
Chapter 17, we shop for waterbeds. They get a cab driver, and they say, take us to Los Angeles. They're in Vegas, remember.
Yeah.
The driver says, that's 300 miles. If you want me to do that, you have to pay up front. Annabeth hands over the Lotus cash card, and it rings up for infinite money.
I mean, hey, they got something out of it.
So Percy says, or one of them says, if you get us there as fast as you can keep the change. And so this guy like speeds 100 miles an hour through the desert. Percy shares his latest dream on the drive and mentions that it didn't feel like Hades talking from the pit. Annabeth has a theory about that, but doesn't want it to be true, so doesn't say. Very helpful.
Thank you, Annie.
They get to California. They go to Santa Monica Pier, which again was requested by
Poseidon.
Percy just walks straight into the ocean. Just like, yeah, exactly.
Of course he did.
Yeah. And Mako Shark comes up to him and leads him further, like he grabs the fin and it like drags him down. And he meets a Nereid, which is a spirit of the sea. It is the same woman who was talking to him in the Mississippi River.
Okay.
She can appear in different bodies of water, but is easier to appear in Poseidon's actual domain, especially because the Mississippi was so polluted. She gives Percy a warning and a gift. The gift is...
Don't trust the gift.
She's the one who said that.
Oh.
She said, don't trust me. 303, don't trust me. The gift is 3 pearls. She says that when in need, smash them at your feet. What belongs to the sea will always return to the sea. The warning is, go with what your heart tells you, or you will lose all. Percy goes back to the shore, and they know that the place that they're looking for in Los Angeles is called DOA Recording Studio.
DOA.
You know what DOA stands for?
Dead on arrival.
Yeah. While they're looking, they're like ducking cop cars because remember, Percy's still a fugitive.
A fugitive. They think he killed his mom
And
fought those old ladies on the bus and then did a terrorist attack.
and torched a national monument. At one point, they see Smelly Gabe on TV giving an interview. He has a young blonde grief counselor with him. And he's giving an interview on his missing delinquent stepson that he thinks was the reason that his wife disappeared.
He's just mad because his car got messed up.
Yeah. No, he literally is like, he took everything from me, my wife, her cooking, my car. He might not have even said that in that order. They get surrounded by a gang of kids, like young, rich thugs, basically, who have like
Wearing like sweaters around their neck.
yeah, they're supposed to be like posh kids, but they have like switchblades and are trying to jump these kids.
Okay, so they're like posh kids from the 50s.
Yeah,
They're the Soches.
like a greaser gang.
Yeah, they're the Soches.
Percy-
And Percy is Ponyboy.
Yeah, Percy pulls his sword out on instinct, but these are mortals.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they saw, but he tries to swing at a kid and it goes through him.
They saw peanut butter jelly with a baseball bat. It goes through him, like cuts through him, or...
This is an important note that I didn't mention before, but all of the weapons that the Greek kids have are made out of something called celestial bronze, which only hurts monsters and other demigods.
That's good.
So it will never hurt a mortal. The gang of kids is like, what the fuck? But they're still like, oh, we're gonna try and jump you.
Yeah,
So they
for sure.
run. They duck into a place called Krusty's Waterbed Palace. And I didn't put this on the board because he's just nasty.
He's crusty.
They're greeted by a yucky man who says his name is Krusty. And Percy's like mental thought process is, yes, you are.
Sassy man apocalypse.
Sassy man apocalypse. He says that he never gets business anymore because of that gang of kids outside, drives all of his customers away. But he loves making waterbeds, and he really wants people to try them out. So he has them try them out. He kind of pushes Annabeth and Grover to try some, and they lay down on it, and the guy snaps his fingers, and ropes appear, holding them to the bed.
Because of course they do.
Because of course they do. Percy's like, hey, I kind of know how this works by now. What's your real name? And he says his name is Procrustes. Yeah, terrible.
He's a professional crusty.
He's professional at being crusty. His whole deal is that he wants people to be exactly 6 feet tall. And so he's trying to stretch Annabeth and Grover to fit in his waterbed.
Ouchie.
Because they're all exactly 6 feet tall. And he's like, oh, I hate it when it's not a perfect fit. Percy's like, what do you do if they're over 6 feet tall? He says, center them and you cut off what hangs over. While Annabeth and Grover are literally being stretched to death, Percy's like, I gotta be smart about how I get us out of this.
First time he's ever thought that.
Yeah. So he just pretends to be really interested in waterbeds. He's like, well, yeah, of course they would need to fit perfectly. What is even the point? He's like, the craftsmanship is incredible.
Buttering him up.
Yeah, and he's like, wow, this material is really great, but like, surely it wouldn't do well on such a tall guy like you.
Don't call me Shirley.
And so he gets Krusty to lay down in one of the beds. And Percy says, and the ropes wrap around Krusty.
Okay, so it wasn't Krusty's power. It was
he says a word. He says ergo. So it's some kind of like spell thing. But for some reason, Percy can do it.
It's just like clap on lights.
Yeah. Ergo, Percy says, center him. Cuts off his head. Second time someone has been decapitated by Percy in this book.
He's stone cold.
He's crazy. Anyway, the ropes let off of Annabeth and Grover, and they're like, you could have done that faster. He's like, sorry for trying to save you. But while they're in there, they see the address for the DOA on the bulletin board in his store.
Perfect.
We're on chapter 18. Annabeth does obedience school. I've also gone ahead and put up the DOA records, even though I didn't do that on video.
We're getting there.
Sorry. Okay, they get to the DOA. We're there. It is basically a big waiting room. It's full of people who all look really sad. And they realize that they're all dead. They're all souls that are waiting to go to the underworld. The guy at the front desk asks how they died. Grover says, we drowned in a bathtub. Guy says, all three of you? They say, really big bathtub.
Checks out.
Percy tries to read the guy's name plaque, and he says, your name's Chiron? And the guy says, no. My name is Chiron. You think I'm a horse? Do I look like that horse guy? No. Chiron says you need to pay for passage. And Percy's like, oh, well, that's fine. We have golden drachmas. Because Krusty's waterbed palace had a full till. And so they took it.
Yeah. They nicked it too.
They nicked it. Chiron's like, okay, 2 and 2. You have gold drachmas, and you couldn't read my name tag. You're a half-blood. You're a demigod. And they're like, what? No way.
No.
We're just regular little dead guys.
No.
Ready to go to hell.
Yeah.
And Chiron's like, nope, won't do that. Won't do that unless you're dead. And Percy's like, well, I guess you aren't getting this money then. And just takes it back. And then Percy's like, I bet Hades doesn't pay you enough. Stacks a coin. I bet he doesn't see all the hard work you do. Stacks a coin. And Chiron's like, you think I can be bought? And Percy's like, picks up a whole stack of gold and like runs his fingers through it and is like, I guess not. And Chiron's like, all right, fine, you guys can squeeze on to the next book.
Capitalism. In my Greek mythology, it's more likely than you think.
More likely than you think. They get onto the ferry, and they sail through the river Styx, which is the river that goes through the underground. It is polluted with human dreams. So it's got like ripped up diplomas and like wedding bands and things floating through it, which I think is sad.
Yeah.
There are entrance lines into the underworld, like TSA. There is one going straight to the fields of Asphodel that's called Easy Death, because it's supposed to be the fast lane. There are 2 other lanes where you go to be judged by the court. So you go to be judged to either get reward or get punishment. Their plan is to sneak through the Easy Death line, but it's guarded by Cerberus. Dog. Here's Percy's grand plan. Percy has brought a stick to play with the dog. And he throws it, and Cerberus does not fetch.
I think they should let Annabeth do the planning.
Annabeth has a backup plan. She digs through the backpack, and in it is a red bouncy ball from Waterland.
Mm-hmm.
Cerberus likes the bouncy ball.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, is Annabeth did dog obedience school when she was a kid because her dad used to have a dog. So she gets Cerberus to sit and stay and play fetch, and she is like, I bet Hades doesn't ever let you play. And Cerberus really likes playing with Annabeth.
Bless him.
So while Annabeth is distracting him, Grover and Percy sneak through the Easy Death line. And Annabeth is very sad about having to leave Cerberus because he like drops the ball at her feet and is like, again? Throw it again?
Next time.
And she's like, I promise I'll come back.
Aww.
But when will she get to come back?
Never.
Chapter 19. We find out the truth. Sort of.
Is the sort of in parentheses?
It's like comma, sort of. I know, it should be in parentheses. They see the fields of Asphodel, which is very sad. Grover describes it as standing in a wheat field in Kansas forever. They walk past Paradise, which is called Elysium. Mm-hmm. So it's like the place you go when you've done something really great with your life. As they start getting closer to Hades' palace, which they can see off in the distance, something weird happens. The wings on Grover's shoes sprout and drag him forward. They drag him away very fast, and he can't get to the laces to untie them. Percy and Annabeth chase after him. He continues to be dragged by his feet into a cavern with a pit. The same cavern from Percy's dream. They cannot get to him in time. What saves Grover is his hooves.
Those are his hooves, bitch.
Those are his hooves. So when Grover goes out in public, he dresses up like a fake human, and he has fake feet.
Yes.
So his hooves go into his fake feet. One of them comes off. This is enough to slow his momentum enough that he can kind of grab onto the ledge 10 feet out from the edge of the pit, and they're able to get the other shoe off. The other shoe is annoyed and kicks him before it jumps into the pit, which I think is really funny.
That's really funny.
They grab Grover, they run right outside the entrance to the cavern, but they can hear the pit whispering behind them. Yes. And Percy remarks that it feels like it's magic, whatever it's saying. Annabeth says that pit is the entrance to Tartarus. Tartarus is like the pits of hell where the worst of the worst go. Yeah, you have something to say?
It's also where they make the fish sauce.
The whispering gets louder and they run, and a gust of wind tries to pull them into the pit. They just barely get far enough away that it isn't strong enough to suck them back in. Very scary times.
Bad times in the underworld.
They make it to Hades' palace. It is darkly beautiful. The garden of Persephone is outside of it, and there are skeleton soldiers that are like posted around that lead them through
to Hades. Dun dun dun.
Hades is waiting for them. He has a powerful, dreadful aura, is what I wrote down.
Yeah.
He asks how Percy has the gall to be here after what he's done. Percy asks, respectfully, for the Master Bolt to return it to Olympus.
Please.
For once in his short life, Percy's like very respectful because he knows this guy's powerful. He like kneels at his feet and is like, please give me the honor of returning this bolt back. And is like, probably because he's afraid of this guy. Hades is affronted and says, I didn't take that. He says, you think I want a war between all of us? You think I want to incite, like, anger between my powerful brothers? Percy's like, don't you want a bigger kingdom? And Hades is like, ugh, the infrastructure I would have to do to keep that. I've had to put in so many system bypasses over the last couple years. Hades accuses Percy of stealing the Master Bolt and the Helm of Darkness, and that it was all Poseidon's master plan. Percy's like, nuh-uh.
Nuh-uh.
I didn't do any of that shit.
He barely made it to this point. This time.
Yeah.
How did he successfully steal from both Zeus and Hades?
Hades says, oh, you didn't steal it? Open your backpack.
Why I
Percy opens the backpack and the Master Bolt is inside. It was not inside previously, I will say. They have been in the backpack and they have looked through it.
The red ball was in there.
Red ball was in there. Percy says, it's all a mistake. Hades says, obviously Percy just came to barter for his mom with the Master Bolt. And Hades makes his mom appear in the light next to him. Hades is like, I will trade you your mom for the Master Bolt. And Percy's like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Their only plan of escape is with those pearls that he was given.
There's only 3.
There's only three. He has to choose between returning with his friends and giving back the Master Bolt and trying to save his mom. Both Annabeth and Grover offer to stay in the underworld instead. Hades looks like the cat.
I'm like, why am I gonna cry? That's so sweet.
I know! Hades is looking very pleased with himself. He thinks that he's got Percy trapped into a corner. And that obviously he's going to
choose his mom. Yeah.
Percy hands both Annabeth and Grover a pearl, turns around, says he'll find a way to save his mom, and smashes it at his feet. The 3 of them have bubbles appear around them, and they start to float up towards the ceiling, and it goes through solid rock, bringing them all the way back up to the surface where they break out into the ocean. It is early morning, June 21st, the summer solstice. Chapter 20, I battle my jerk relative. They get rescued by the Coast Guard because they're just floating in the middle of the ocean.
For sure.
In a rare moment of intelligence, Percy puts together the scheme that someone went through some pretty intense steps to start a 3-way war.
Yeah.
Who would benefit from that the most?
Maybe the god of war.
The god of war. And waiting for them on the beach is Ares. He's like, you were supposed to die in the underworld, and I can't have you going back to Olympus. He remarks that yes, he had someone steal the bolt and the helm for him at the summer solstice. The backpack was magic to have it be kind of like a sheath. Don't look. That would be like a sheath that would appear the bolt when he got into Hades' palace and not before then. Percy's like, these are some really powerful weapons. I'm surprised you didn't keep them for yourself. Mm-hmm. And Ares has a moment where he's like, yeah.
Shit.
Why didn't I? And then he pauses, like he's listening to something. And then he's like, this would be way better. We would have a war this way. But for a moment, it seemed like it wasn't his idea. Ares is like, I can't have you surviving this. And he summons a boar to kill Percy, like a warrior boar thing. But Percy demands that Ares fight him himself.
A warrior.
A warrior. Percy demands that Ares fight him himself, a god, and a 12-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Ares initially scoffs, but Percy's like, what, you're just going to turn me into a worm? You want to get me away from all your problems? You're a wimp. Fight me yourself.
Dang.
Yeah.
Got him.
And it works. So Ares is like, yeah, fine. I'll just pulverize you. I'm the god of war. Annabeth puts her camp necklace on Percy for good luck. And Grover gives him his last tin can. Percy uses some of Annabeth's advice earlier, which is that sometimes even strength has to bow to wisdom. Mm-hmm. So he fights smart instead of hard.
Yes.
He uses a lot of different things to his advantage, including the fact that he's right next to the ocean.
Smart.
Cops show up on the beach because there's a big commotion. And through the mist, it's unclear what they see, but they definitely see a fight is happening between this adult man and this child.
Yeah.
Percy uses the sea to his advantage to kind of like leap himself over Ares at times. The police call for them to drop their guns. So I guess they see them as guns.
Pew pew.
And Ares says, this is none of your business, and makes the cars explode. Like the police cars. They're not in the police cars.
I mean, hey,
but
F12.
F12, but like, still bonkers. He just like, whoosh, and
Yeah.
there's like 5 cars explode.
For sure.
Percy times a strike, uses the sea to leap over Ares, and drives his sword through Ares' heel, where he bleeds golden blood. Ichor, the blood of gods.
Yeah, it is.
Ichor. He wounded a god.
Yeah, no, that's crazy.
Crazy. Ares claims that Percy has made an enemy, and that when he goes to battle, Percy will feel Ares' curse. Then he disappears, almost blinding Percy, because apparently if you look at a god while they're traveling, they turn into full light, and it can, like, literally kill you. The Furies land. They had been circling, watching the exchange, and so they know now that Percy did not steal the items because they heard Ares confess to it. Percy gives them the Helm of Darkness to return to Hades. All right. Chapter 21, I Settle My Tab. Percy, Annabeth, and Grover talk to the reporters and the cops, and they spin a story that Ares abducted them, and that all of these public outings were them trying to escape him. Everyone now remembers there being an adult man nearby at all of these events. So Percy kind of spins this story, and he says to the reporters, I just really miss my stepfather, and I know I've been seeing him be so worried. I know he'll be so happy to hear from all of you lovely viewers, so you should call him at his store for a free appliance.
Yeah. Sassy man apocalypse.
Percy, Annabeth, and Grover pass around basically a hat to get funds to fly back to New York. They think that because they have the Master Bolt, Zeus will not kill them. So they're going to try it because it's the only way they can get back by the deadline. It is the day of the deadline. So they fly a plane. Zeus does not strike them out of the sky. They land, and Grover and Annabeth head back to camp, while Percy is going to go on to Olympus. Percy's thought process is like, if they kill me, at least Chiron will know what happened.
Yeah.
All right, they make it back to New York. Percy is going to go on to Olympus, which, remember, is on the 600th floor of the Empire State Building. Percy makes it into the Empire State Building and talks to the, like, desk guy. And he's like, I need to get to Olympus. And the guy's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And Percy's like, don't mess with me. I've had a long day. And he's like, I have the Master Bolt in my backpack. And the guy's like, for real? He's like, okay, here's a special key. Put it in there and it'll make the button appear.
Like this 12-year-old probably just peeking over the desk.
Yeah. He's like, you want me to take it out? He's like, no, 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 no. So Percy gets up there. It is basically a floating Grecian island just hanging over Manhattan. Percy finds the throne room, and in it are Zeus and his father, Poseidon. They're both very tall. They're supposed to be like 10 feet tall. Zeus is wearing a pinstriped suit.
Because of course he is. Zeus.
And Poseidon is wearing a Hawaiian shirt.
Can I put him with Sally?
Sure. Percy goes in and he actually kneels at Poseidon's feet first. And Zeus is like, the highest disgrace. I am the king of the gods.
Bitch.
And Percy's like, he honors his dad. That's a good thing. Like, rise and tell your story. They're all very formal.
Yeah.
Because they're old as hell. Percy explains everything. I'm not going to do that because we just did that.
We were here.
He
explains
this. And he explains that he thinks that the thing in the pit is controlling Ares. Poseidon and Zeus talk among themselves, and Percy hears the word father. Zeus takes the bolt back and says, in return, he will not kill Percy or Percy's friends.
Yay!
And also says that Percy should never fly in a plane again, because he will kill him if he does. And he disappears. And Poseidon calls him dramatic. Now it's just Percy and his dad, who he's never met before. Absent for 12 years. Percy asks about the voice in the pit, and then guesses that it is Kronos. Poseidon says that from time to time Kronos stirs, but Percy presses that Kronos intends to return fully, which would be bad. So, just to tell you a little bit about the myth of Kronos, because it is mentioned in the book at the very beginning, basically, Kronos was a titan. The Age of Titans happened before the Age of the Gods, and Kronos is the dad of Poseidon, Zeus, and Hades. When the children were born, Kronos ate them. Except Rhea, their mother, hid Zeus and fed Kronos a rock instead. So later, after time had passed, the gods can't die, right? So they've just been living in his stomach, like growing, but trapped.
Kronos, why did he do that?
Because he doesn't want them to usurp his power.
Yeah. Obviously.
Obviously. Zeus eventually makes a mixture to feed Kronos to make him throw up all of his brothers and sisters and things.
Blech.
And they slice Kronos into 1,000 pieces. Because he can't die. This
Healthy
at least
family dynamic.
stops him from doing more bad things. Before Poseidon leaves, he tells Percy that his mom is back. And that Hades released her in thanks for the helm being returned. As an act of goodwill, basically. And that she is now just popped into her apartment. Poseidon also tells Percy that there is a package for him in his room, and that he has a decision to make about it when he returns. He also calls Sally a queen among women, which I think is...
We all agree.
He was like, I've never met a mortal like her in thousands of years. Poseidon apologizes to Percy for being born. Which, ouch.
Yeah.
At 12 years old. And Percy's understandably hurt by this. But Poseidon clarifies that he is sorry to bring the curse of a hero's fate upon Percy, because they never have happy endings. Again,
Yeah.
the whole Perseus deal. But he states that Percy has done well and that he is a true son of the sea god, which is the nicest thing that probably a god has ever told their child.
Most likely.
Ever. Percy gets a taxi to his mom's apartment, where she is alive and well.
Yay!
They get to reunite. Apparently she just popped in the middle of Gabe's poker game. You're gonna hate this. Gabe is being horrible.
Yeah.
Griping about having to give Sally his life insurance back. Saying Percy isn't welcome there. And when Sally talks back, Gabe raises his hand, and Percy realizes for the first time that at some point or another, Gabe has beat his mother. Percy is overflowing with anger at this realization, but his sword won't work on mortals, so what is he going to do? Sally drags Percy back into his room. He realizes the box on his bed is the one he sent to Olympus, which has Medusa's head. He asks his mom if she wants Gabe gone, and if she does, she can use whatever is in that box to do it. Chapter 22, final chapter. The prophecy comes true. The trio returns to camp as heroes. They burn the potential burial shrouds that the camp made for them while they were gone, which is something that they do when people go on quests, is that they make a burial shroud just in case they die.
That's so funny.
Because Percy doesn't have bunkmates, the Ares cabin made Percy's shroud, which was just red and had the word loser written on it.
Why did they let them do that?
No, really.
Why did this man let them do that?
I do not know. But Percy was like, it was very fun to burn.
Yeah.
Grover is awarded a searcher's license.
Yay.
For successfully completing a quest. Percy moves back into cabin 3 and gets a letter from his mom a week in saying that Gabe has vanished off the face of the earth. And on a completely unrelated note, she has sold her first and only statue titled The Poker Player for enough money that not only is she going to move apartments, but she is going to start taking classes at NYU again.
Yes,
Eating.
queen! Oh my gosh.
She also says, I've disposed of the art tools you left for me. Code. At the 4th of July party, Grover bids Percy and Annabeth farewell to start his searcher's journey. Again, something that no one has ever returned from. They are very sad, but they wish him luck, and Percy says that if anyone is going to find Pan, it's going to be Grover, because he found the 2 most powerful demigods in the last century.
Yes, sir!
Yes, sir! The rest of July passes mostly unceremoniously, but the prophecy Percy got earlier is still nagging at him because it feels unresolved.
Mm-hmm.
The last night of summer, new beads are handed out, black with a green trident in the middle. The next morning, Percy has to decide, will he stay at camp for the year, or will he try the new school his mom found near her new apartment? He doesn't know which one he's going to do yet. He goes to the sword arena to clear his head, and Luke is already there fighting with his new sword. This new sword is half celestial bronze, half steel. And he calls it Backbiter. Luke invites Percy to join him for sodas and wandering in the woods. They sit in a shady spot by the creek where Percy was first attacked by that hellhound during the Capture the Flag game, reminiscing about the excitement of being on a quest. Luke is like, do you miss it? And Percy's like, the danger, the monsters following me every couple feet. Yeah. Percy says that the way that Luke is talking, it sounds like Luke is leaving, and he says he is. Luke snaps his fingers, and a scorpion appears. Percy goes to fight it, but Luke stops him. I'm just going to read this quote from the book that I took a screenshot of. I started to go for my pen. I wouldn't, Luke cautioned. Pit scorpions can jump up to 15 feet. A stinger can pierce right through your clothes. You'll be dead in 60 seconds. Luke, what? Then it hit me. You will be betrayed by one who calls you a friend.
Don't trust the gifts.
You, I said. Luke remarks about how the gods and everything about it is all useless. They don't care about their kids, and they never have. A new age is coming with a new master. Percy correctly says that Luke serves Kronos and stole the lightning bolt. We find out that the quest that gave Luke the scar on his face was a few years ago, I think 3 years ago, where he was ordered by his dad to redo a quest that had already been done ages ago for no reason, just to do a quest. No purpose, and he was permanently maimed by it. When Luke stole the lightning bolt and the helm. He was caught by Ares. He was too arrogant and was caught. But Kronos helped Luke get Ares in on it. Luke summoned the Hellhound in the first Capture the Flag game. The flying shoes were cursed, and Percy would be dead if he hadn't given them to Grover. He says, right before he disappears, there's a new golden age coming, Percy, and you won't be part of it. The scorpion lunges and bites him, or pierces him, stabs him.
Pierces sounds right.
Pierces. Again, very bad poison will kill him in 60 seconds.
Fall backwards into the creek.
It won't work.
Oh.
It won't be healed by that. He tries and it doesn't work, I think. Or maybe Luke just says it won't. He's deep in the woods, so he's just stumbling, calling out for help, and eventually tree nymphs get to him, and he blacks out. But Percy wakes up, back in the big house, with Annabeth feeding him nectar, like at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Percy tells Annabeth and Chiron what happened in the woods, and they just can't believe it, because they both have known Luke at this point for 5 years, but Annabeth remarks that he's been acting weird since they got back. Chiron goes to give a message to Olympus. Annabeth reveals that because of Percy's advice, she has reached out to her dad again, and that her dad and her stepmom are there to pick her up, and she's going to try living with them again. Percy decides he's going to spend the year with his mom, trying out this new school, and he thinks that he will be back next summer.
The end?
The end.
Dang. That was good.
Yeah? You
Yeah.
liked it? Here's your fun back.
Twists and turns.
Twists and turns.
So the god who was turned
Was Ares.
was Ares. And they found what was stolen, which was the bolts and the helm. And they do see it safely returned. He's betrayed by Luke.
And he did not save his mom in the underworld. But
But he did save her.
she was saved, but not really him saving her.
Yeah. But he was saved.
Yeah, he did it.
saved
He
her.
did it. If you've never read the books, I hope that this was something that could kind of give you pretty in-depth, I think, basis of the plot. And now you'll be able to see if there's anything that's different in the show.
Yeah. And if it has been since you were 12 that you read the books, then you probably needed a refresher.
A little refresher.
Anyway.
This was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I'm excited to do Sea of Monsters.
Sea of Monsters is book 2.
Next.
So hopefully the next video, I don't know, this one was kind of long, so maybe they'll just be individual. But it's possible that it could be books 2 and 3, but I think that this was long enough.
I think it may be that we do Hill House in between.
Yeah. So that's the project that Liv is going to be taking on, is explaining
The Haunting of Hill House. Because some people who won't be named don't like scary things.
Who's that? I don't know.
But the plot is just too good to not know because it's a little scary.
I am really excited to hear about it because I still get to know what happens without having to be scared.
Yeah.
Or freaked out by, like, gross things.
Yes. All right, well.
Thank you all for watching.
Thaning for watching.
Make sure to subscribe, hit like, leave a comment down
Smash
below.
that like button, team. Yeah.
And we'll see you all next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Junie, say bye.
Junie, say bye. That was crazy. You threw that.
She said bye-bye.